I'm
Okay.
here, but I'm driving.
All right. All right. So you can't see the flyer I made. I posted it on,
Oh, I see it. I see it.
okay.
I glanced at it.
I was out of pocket for a few days and figured that I'd do something for the team and just want to show y'all what I made so we can actually promote the brand. I'm still waiting on your commercials so we can run commercials during this live stream. Pearl, I guess you couldn't hear me. So so basically what I was talking about was making sure that you treat your children, even though they are your children, you treat them with a level of respect and you talk to them. You don't overparent them because the problem is, especially with our generation, Generation X, we overparented our children. And I'm not saying y'all did or I did, but for the most part, Gen Z and Gen Alpha are the way they are because of us, because we're their parents and grandparents. And we were so used to being raised in the wild and doing our own thing that we wanted to make sure that our kids had every advantage that we did not or thought we should have had. And in turn, we made a lot of them indecisive, um, over dependent, and um, not able to really survive. And, I am not one to say that I am above that.
No,
I
I
got,
totally agree. I just had a discussion with someone earlier this week, and she said that a friend of hers told her that she spoils her children. And she was like, I don't think I spoil them. I said, yeah, we all do. We're all guilty of that because we didn't get spoiled as children. So we overcompensate with ours.
yep,
And I'm definitely guilty of that, especially with my girl.
yeah, Gremlin.
But what do you mean by overparent? What describe
Okay,
what overparenting means?
okay. Here's DFG's take on overparenting. Um, Being there to the detriment that they may not that if you leave, they're unable to do anything because you've done everything for them or done most of it. You've knocked down all the hurdles. You've smoothed all the roads. They're basically in their late 20s and still calling you to take care of something, a bill, I didn't pay my
Okay,
bill or this and those other
Making
type of things.
something as simple as making doctor's appointments, things like
Exactly.
that.
right.
So
Yeah,
we
we step
Okay,
in.
okay, okay. I will say this. I'm not guilty with my boys. I'm guilty a little bit with my daughter. With that. However, my daughter had just not just told me, but she told me one day, called me up on the phone out of the blue and said that I didn't raise her like I raised the boys. And I'm like, what are you talking about? You showed and told them how to do everything, but you didn't do that for me. And I thought back, I said, well, man, I did do that for you. I tried to raise you the same way or similar to what I did with them by teaching them how to change a tire, um, know when to empty the trash, know when to clean the house, know when to go grocery shopping, try to save a little money. I tried to do all that, fix a car, fix this, fix that. And unfortunately, she didn't catch on or didn't pay attention to it. So is that still considered overparenting her if she
well,
chose not to grasp
right. If she
what I
chose,
was teaching?
there's a difference. There's a
Okay.
difference. It's like being a security guard. If you just let somebody walk out, that's on you. If you stop and they walk out, you've done all you could do, and especially if you're unarmed.
Right.
So if you give them the opportunities and they refuse to take it, or they can't, or they don't know how, that's really not a reflection on you. However, if you didn't teach them anything, and then they were upset because you didn't teach them anything, and you didn't teach them anything, then you are 100% in the wrong. You have created adult children, and I don't mean children as in, I mean, they're legally adults, they're body wise, but mentally they still have a
They're like a
dependence.
child.
Yeah, a dependence mentality. We're supposed to preach code. We're supposed to preach interdependence or independence, and that's both men and women. We get a lot of mothers, a lot of mother sons or son husband or whatever you want to call them. Y'all taught y'all boys how to cook. So
Right,
so by them knowing how to cook, they didn't expect that out the women that they chose because they said, "Well, I can cook. I don't need you to cook." A lot of times
right,
we didn't teach our daughters, nieces, we didn't teach them the same thing we taught our sons and nephews because we wanted them to be ladylike.
right.
However, in some way, we did create a cycle of dependency because if they can't depend on themselves, they got to depend on somebody else,
Nobody else. Right.
whether it's man or woman. And like I said, we were raised in the wild, so we had to figure. We had no, we did have help.
I was about to say, Daddy taught me a lot.
Yeah, but I'm
So
saying, no, we did have help. I didn't. I can't
yeah,
take that. I said, however, we learned a lot harder lessons than we allowed our children to learn.
children learn. Right. I
So
agree with you on that.
sometimes we need
I
to bump their heads.
as you talked, it kind of reminded me of my oldest when I went to go visit him. He had just bought his house, and uh, every time you turn around, he had just bought his house, and his wife had him putting up stuff. That was the first time I've ever been to someone's house that they literally just bought a month before I came to visit. That mostly everything was put up, hung up on the wall, and all that other good stuff. So most time it takes people a good 6 months to a year to get their house really settled, right? So I told my son, I said, "Goodness, you got all this stuff up here." He said, "Yeah, it's your fault." And I said, "What do you mean it's your fault?" He says, "Because you taught me so much and how to do so much. Everybody depends on me to get it done. So like if the car breaks down, his mother-in-law will call him. Or if something happens, everybody's calling him." And he says he blamed it on me because I taught him so much. I try to do that same thing with my daughter. Some things she did catch on and some things she didn't. I remember we had was on the way to the dentist and I allowed her to drive. And as we were on the interstate, you know how you go onto a curve to get onto another part of the interstate, she came a little too close and blew my tire.
Mm.
So I told her to pull over like you're supposed to. I told her to pull over. And she said, "Oh goodness, who's gonna change it?" I said, "You." She said, "Well, I don't know how to change tires." I said, "You're gonna learn today." So she
Absolutely.
had to get out there and she had to learn how to change a tire. So, I did the same thing with my son, my middle son. He had his car. Well, he was using his brother's car while his brother was in the military. And he was going to practice and his tire blew. And first person he called was me. He didn't call my ex-husband, he called me. And he says, "Mom, how do you change a tire?" So I had to tell him how to change a tire over the phone. So it's just a matter of if you normal people say, "Well, stay right there or call AAA or I'll be there to do it." No, you're gonna learn how to do this because God forbid I couldn't afford AAA. So you're gonna
Understood.
have to figure you're gonna have to figure this out on your own and stuff like that. So because I remember when my ex's car broke down and he was at the gas station and it would not start. And he was literally walking distance from the house. I was still at work. He called me and said his car broke down. I said, "Well, what's wrong with it?" He said, "I think it's the battery." I said, "Well, go, did you check it?" He says, "No." I said, "Why not?" He said, "Because I'm waiting for you."
Go.
Yeah.
So I had to get off of work, come, come all the way from where I was, because I think I was in maybe 30 minutes away. Come home, and they were still. Now you could have left the car there and just walked home. No, they stayed in that car until I got there, and it was the battery. So I had to take him to go get a battery. I come back because the car that he bought was a used car, and they kind of tricked it out. Whoever owned it before kind of tricked it out. So
Hmm.
they had certain wires connected to the battery, and that's what was draining, was all those different wires. So I had to undo all that, take the battery to get tested, found out it was completely dead, had to, come back and put it back together. But it's the fact that I had to do that because he didn't feel confident enough to do it. Now, I don't know if his parents taught him that stuff, but I know
Obviously
his
not.
mother taught him how to clean. His mother taught him how to clean, but nobody else taught him how to do other stuff. I actually changed the toilet. I put in a new toilet. I put in a new water heater. I I was pregnant, and I actually put a starter in my car at Baptist Hospital because the car broke down. Him, your good friend Milton, and another person stood there and watched me put a starter in the car. I didn't have a welder. What is it? Can't think of it right now. The
A soldering iron.
solder iron. Thank you. I didn't have a solder, so I had to use a lighter.
Wow.
So I did all that while they watched me, and that's because Daddy taught. I'm not saying he taught y'all, but he taught me how to be dependent and figure stuff out, and that's what I had to do. I had to figure things out. I didn't want my children to have to figure it out. I want you to know how to do it, and then you can figure something else out. You know what I mean? So is that was I enabling them in a good way or enabling them in a bad way? Because I wanted them to know how to do something way before it happens.
No, that makes sense. That makes sense. You want to teach them for the worst, so when the worst does come, they're prepared for it and they're not running around like a chicken with their head cut off.
Right.
No,
So
that's
I don't. Is that considered a bad mother or a good mother? Because I know when
no,
they
no. I
was
mean, you did what you thought was necessary, but this is the importance of mate selection. The mate that you have now, I have no doubt that he would you wouldn't have to do all of that with him.
no, no, I sure
So
wouldn't. And let
so
me tell you, we're making costumes because we have I'm not too much into Halloween, but I am into Halloween for other people, not for adults. But anyway, we're doing a pop up, and it's a Halloween thing going on. And because I always say that my fiance is a whimsical type person, he kept saying, "Okay, what are we going to dress up for Halloween for this little event?" And I came up with Fred and Wilma. So we
okay.
went out and got material to make our little costumes. We're gonna make our costumes. He started his costume before I did.
Wow.
He almost finished it, but my sewing machine, he had a fight with my sewing machine, so he didn't get to finish all of it. So he went to the storage and got his own machines. But it's just the fact that no, with him, I won't have to change a tire. I won't have to basically lift a finger. If I need him to do something, he does it. He cooks, cleans, he fixes cars. He does everything. Everything that I would do. I said, "Oh, I'm finally going to be a woman."
No, you have the body parts from birth. So yeah, that wasn't gonna.
Yeah, but I didn't have
I
to.
no, I get what she's saying.
I'm
I
messing
didn't
with
have to
her.
do both. I didn't have to do both. You know what I'm saying?
you finally get to be the girl
I,
in the relationship. Yeah.
yeah, I finally get to be the woman in a relationship
Well,
instead of both.
yeah, no, I got you. I got you. I'm just
So,
I'm
but
just
anyway,
saying
I just figured that I had to say that because the difference in me raising my children and thinking that maybe was I too mean, was I too structured, Was I too lackadaisy?